Beatle people, welcome back to A Beatleful Life. So today we're going to be looking at part 2 of my record collection. So I have 10 more albums here that I want to show you today. So just like last time, we're going to start with the albums that aren't Beatles or Paul McCartney related, but that I do still have in my collection. So these two here. This is the Grease soundtrack. I think I got this back in 2012, I think. My high school was putting this on as their fall musical, and some of my friends were in it, so I was interested in learning all the songs from it. My favorite on here, I think, is Grease Lightning. I do like the movie as well. And here we have the Andy Williams Christmas album. I also have a Bing Crosby Christmas album in my collection. I think I bought them both on the same day. I listen to these obviously around the holidays. I think my favorite on here is Happy Holidays / the holiday season. Of course, it's the most wonderful time of the year is also a really great one. So now we're going to venture into Beatles territory. We're going to start, I think, with this one. This is Something New, an American release, if I'm not mistaken. Now, something funny about this is whoever owned this previously seems to have written their name upon it. Her name is Joyce, as you can see. Joyce, if you're watching, I have your album. I'm kidding. But yeah, so this seems to have a lot of A Hard Day's Night era songs on it. My favorite is probably Anytime at All. I really like that one, and this also has the German version of I Want to Hold Your Hand on it. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but you can see right there. Next up, we're going to look at A Hard Day's Night. Now, somehow I've accumulated 3 copies of this. I think in the big bundle that I received, for some reason they decided to put multiple copies, but whoever owned this previously seems to have written the Beatles' names on it. You know how it is when you first become a Beatles fan. Perhaps it's a little difficult to tell them apart. I'm assuming that was the case here. Yeah, so I like this one because not only does it have like the songs from the movie, like the vocal versions, but it has also the instrumental tracks. For instance, in the part in the movie where Ringo is like walking by the river and like throwing rocks in the river and such, there's an instrumental of This Boy that's playing. That is on here as well. Next, let's see. Next we're gonna do Revolver. Now this one I got fairly recently. For whatever reason I couldn't find it in the record store until that point, but yeah. I think my favorite on here is Eleanor Rigby. When I first started to become like a hardcore Beatles fan, I was constantly like researching that song because it was so interesting to me, like what it was about. I was trying to find like hidden meaning in it or whatever. For whatever reason, this stuck with me, this fun fact that Eleanor Rigby is Bill Clinton's favorite Beatles song. I like read that randomly on the internet, and for some reason that's still in my head like 10, 11 years later. I don't even know, but there's that. Next up is the Beatles' second album. Now, I have 2 copies of this as well. This one seems to have a little bit of wear and tear to it. Whoever owned this previously seems to have spilled something on it, but that's fine. I have a second copy. They also wrote their name. Whoever owned this, his name was Randy, as you can see. And this one has also a lot of, it has like a lot of With the Beatles era songs on it. My favorite is probably I'll Get You and She Loves You as well, those two. Also their cover, Please Mr. Postman, I love that. Next up, I think I talked about these in my last video, or mentioned them briefly. We have the Red and Blue albums. If you were asking me which do you prefer, red or blue, I think I would pick red. I do tend to prefer the early Beatles to the late Beatles, not that of course I dislike the late Beatles, duh, but if you really were asking me to choose, I would pick early Beatles. Has these photos inside and a track listing on the bottom. Same with the blue. Do let me know in the comments below if you prefer the red or blue album. I think it's kind of split. A lot of people like the early Beatles, a lot of people like the late Beatles. Do let me know in the comments. Next up we have the White Album. I have several copies of this, including the newly remastered White Album vinyls that I got for Christmas. I think I showed that in my room tour. But here you are, and inside these photos and the track listing. Interesting thing about Revolution 9. Revolution 9, I had listened to the backwards version, I think, before I had listened to the regular one. This was, again, when I was younger, probably about 12 years old. Starting to become like a hardcore Beatles fan, and I was like looking like at the Paul is dead theory. I didn't believe in it, but I was just like, I'm thinking, what the heck is this? So I listened to Revolution 9 backwards because it supposedly had like a hidden message in it, like turn me on, dead man, like Paul's dead. Bunch of baloney, if you ask me. Some people say that Revolution 9 genuinely scares them. Like, I don't know, it's just that conspiracy theory, something else, I'll tell you. Next up we have Abbey Road. Now this album holds even more significance to me now because, as I mentioned in, I think either my last video, whenever it was, I mentioned that last year I went to Abbey Road myself, and I did cross this road. I think my favorite on here is You Never Give Me Your Money. But I also really like Maxwell's Silver Hammer. That was actually my favorite Beatles song at a time. I think I was maybe 12 or 13. It was my favorite song. I think it's always so funny to think about Maxwell's Silver Hammer, about how Paul was like insistent on getting it absolutely perfect, and everyone in the studio was like rolling their eyes because they were like, stop it already. Like he was so like perfectionist about it. It's so funny. And last for today we have Let It Be. I think my favorite on here is either Dig a Pony or I've Got a Feeling. Inside we have some photos of like the making of the Let It Be film. Some stills, if you will, from the film. This is actually a good segue into the fact that they are making a new Let It Be movie. I'm very excited for that. Apparently there's 55 hours of unreleased footage that they're combing through for the movie, so that's really great. I love the rooftop concert. Obviously, the anniversary of that, in fact, just passed a little bit ago. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the new movie coming up in the comments. So like I said, or maybe I didn't say at the beginning, I think there's going to be a part 3 of this video that's going to be mostly my 45s that I have down there on my shelf. There's a couple more like regular vinyls as well, but mostly 45, so do stay tuned for part 3. And thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my blog at beatlefullife.com and follow me on Instagram at @abeautifullife, and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.